I am incredibly behind on this review, so please accept my apologies. This is the August review, shipping mid-September. August was choppy, really choppy. It was offline, it was everybody in my family's birthdays, and it seemed like every single week there was something that was disrupting our ability to ship stuff. So as a consequence, our revenue was down. My time spent on driving revenue was considerably less, and my time spent on revenue generating activities was definitely lower. With that being said, it was still a successful month because I had a ton of lessons. Now, when it comes to the local project, I had the optician thing I thought was dead in the water from late June, early July. I thought the project was 100% wrapped, but I had a big governing body reach out to license the assets office, and it seemed like when I spoke to people on my Instagram, you guys were super generous about this is the hardest stage, getting people to reply to you is the hardest bit, getting an in is like the barrier to overcome, and we were in slow but regular conversations with governing bodies. Now, conversation was ongoing, but there was some mixed progress. Now, we have got a bunch of projects like this that we're trying to license to professionals, white collar, blue collar, but all offline, and that's brand new to me. I'm learning as I go with that. Although I have done marketing in those sorts of industries before, they've never been through my business. They've been when I was a freelancer. So the lesson that I'm learning in sort of managing those projects for my team is I have absolutely no idea what's normal for offline businesses compared to online businesses. And it's difficult to know when I'm being impatient versus this is an ongoing thing. This is just the pace it moves at. So lots of lessons to learn there for me in terms of expectations, pacing, and those sorts of things. The big project of August was the AI ecosystem. I have worked with Dan Smith and Charlie Beestone. If you are interested in integrating AI into your systems, they are the guys to speak to. They are absolutely brilliant. One of the biggest needle movers I think that they've put in place for me is the automated research into YouTube channels. The risk that I've got is that because I have been doing this manually now for such a long time, that I don't allow myself to let it be automated. They've done a great job, they've done fantastic work, but because I was already doing it manually, there's a switch in the process within the business. So that's a risk that I need to guard against. One of the things I noticed was that I sometimes didn't have clarity on what the scope of the project was, where we were at it within the project, what was still to complete, and a timeline for completion. It taught me that I think when I work with my clients, that tends to be how I work as well. And there have been, most of the time that works fine. But now and again, I have one or two clients who are like, where are we at? I don't know what's going on. And I was like, that to me is always surprising when someone doesn't know what's happening on the project that we are working on. So the lesson that I took from that is that I possibly need to do a better job of highlighting when there is a project board within my own clients. This is not a criticism of the AI ecosystem or Dan or Charlie. But when we've got, say, for example, a whole funnel that we might be building for someone, having maybe a daily checkpoint or an end of the piece of work checkpoint, that's something that I'm going to put in place that I learned from that. And haven't quite figured out a cadence on how to do that yet. Probably per chunk of project would make the most sense. Just so that everybody who is involved in the processes, maybe there's graphic designers, maybe there's web, etc., they will all know where we're at. So that was a lesson for me. The visibility and authority move that we made in August was to continue to publish weekly on Substack. I did record a podcast with my friend Connor. Hi Connor. If you want to use podcasts as a top of funnel method to become known as an industry leader, to make more sales from your podcasts, to get connections and have a cool network, please reach out to my friend Connor Inch. I will link him in this video. His business does amazing work, and I was fortunate enough to be a guest on his podcast, which is not yet released, but when it is, it's going to be peak. I've actually increased my posting on Instagram because I wanted to experiment a little bit with some carousels. The frustration that I felt in August was that I felt like I was giving really good advice, but in private. One-to-ones, in WhatsApp, in private DM conversations, and number one, obviously that isn't seen by anyone else unless I go out of my way to make it seen. And number two, if I do that, it may lack context. And repurposing it needs the context for it to be useful for somebody else. So the lesson for me is that taking what you've got and making it a public resource, the marketing part of it, using the things that you've learned as a marketing tool, kind of like this, may be of limited application because you've got to make it fairly generic so that it's a lesson, but to use it, you actually need quite a bit of context. So the challenge that I face coming into September is making sure that I can capture all of the value of the one-to-one private conversations without losing context. And there's an opportunity in this, I think. I would be interested in delivering some small group consultancy, and I mean really small. I've got a one-to-one consultancy option, which is a ton of fun, but it's really intense. It's me and you on Zoom for a whole hour, and we just work on completely custom problems within your business. We find custom opportunities in your business, and that's a paid call. But I think there could be room here for a group model where people who have got similar sorts of businesses come together and they are in a group of maybe 5 to 10 business owners where we're having lessons, maybe more structure, not exactly a curriculum, but it's less intensely bespoke and you can learn from each other. Let me know if there's any interest in that. I think that would be a great offer with a monthly price tag attached to it, so you could drop in for a bit and be part of something that was really useful for you. When it comes to the pipeline, we have said goodbye to one client this month and we have welcomed in another. Bottomless Brunch is our full stack done for you. All the bells and whistles. If it's written, we write it. Everything from ads right the way through to sales pages, retention emails, upsells, funnel copy for one fixed price. Obviously, because of the nature of the package, we can't take a huge number of people on for that. And in August, we said goodbye to one and we welcomed a returning client back. The returning client is flying. She's told me that she has booked an insane number of calls off the emails that we're writing for her, which is fantastic. Always good to see people coming back, especially when the businesses have got so much opportunity in them. But I'm realising that our capacity for totally done for you full immersion services like Bottomless Brunch may be limited because it really is me and my sister here writing the stuff. So the amount of clients we can take on, we have got to sort of hand select them a little bit. But that means people tend to stay for a long time, and people who are with us, their businesses grow quarter on quarter, and it's wonderful to have long-term relationships with people because when they stay, we become more efficient, the copy becomes more effective, and the working relationship becomes really easy. In August, I only booked 2 consulting calls, and I was a bit disappointed with that because my goal was 6. However, the conversations I did have were absolutely brilliant. Wonderful coaches with huge hearts and tons of ambition. And there's one of them I'm interested in partnering with on a new project, which is super exciting and I think it's got a ton of potential. So the lesson that I took from that was that people who are booking calls in August, people who are proactively working on their business in August when most people are kind of feet up, kids are off school, everybody's thinking about chilling out, means that the people who I was talking to were very high emotion people. They were leaned in, they were focused on their goals, and they were looking for opportunities rather than coming to me to solve problems, which is a really interesting switch. The Black Friday offer is having some slow traction. I think that launched quite early. I started talking about that at the start of August. So we've had some emails sent. We've had a decent amount of assets made. I haven't actually done landing pages, email sequences and stuff, but I will do that ahead of Q4. That's my job for September. And what was interesting about this is I boosted a post for this, and there was a lot of negativity around this. This is the last thing we need on Instagram. Coaches coaching coaches to coach coaches. I was like, well, none of that is what I'm doing. I'm literally just a service provider. But it was interesting how the market perception of selling anything online is quite cynical. The market perception of coaching specifically is quite negative. And people who are fearful or scarce or reluctant to invest in their businesses are often a loud voice, a loud minority. And if you have been in this position yourself, please take heart. That is not the audience that you are speaking to. That's not an opinion you need to be concerned with. And when the market is like that, it's a pretty good indicator for how cynicism is quite high and fear is quite high. And people in that mindset tend to be more willing to kick out than they are at looking at taking responsibility for their behaviour. So that was an interesting, because I don't tend to boost anything. That tends to be all organic. So those were some of my lessons from August. They are incredibly late, I know. Coming up, we're now halfway through September, and I'll have another update for you about this month, which seems to be full of surprises already. I will see you guys in a fortnight, and I'll try not to be late on the next one.